In this video, I'm going to be replacing the stock shift lever on a BMW S1000RR with this attack performance shift lever, which will not only match my particular bike better, but it'll also give us a little bit more adjustability, as you can see by the additional holes in this piece. This particular S1000RR is actually a 2010, but recently I've upgraded it to a 2018 engine and electronic system. If you think back to the 2010s originally, they had a shift lever back here connected to the rear sets, and you had a horizontal shift assist that was for upshift only. When this bike was converted to 2018 guts, part of the challenge was figuring out how to adapt from the shift back here to this kind of a shift setup, because the newer ones, like an 18, has a vertical shift assist, which does up and down shifting. The fabricator actually found a clever way to do this, and this is where my shift lever is located. And you can see this is just a stock 2018 style shift lever. Me being particular like I am about my machines, I didn't like the look of the silver shift lever, and I have attack performance rear sets, so I was fortunate enough to find an attack performance shift lever. Not only will it match the rear sets a lot better, but you can see with these extra holes, it's going to give us a little bit of adjustability in our shifting as well. The first thing I'm going to do is remove my existing rear sets. Not because there's anything wrong with them exactly, but there's still some extra pieces hanging off here from when this was used for shifting that I can get rid of and save a little bit of weight. I really enjoyed these attack rear sets over the years. They have a lot of adjustability, so you can move the peg forward, back, up and down, and if you're doing a long ride, you can actually flip the right to left and get a little bit less bend in your knee for longer distance riding. So they've been great. You can just see we have a lot of extra parts that we don't need anymore now that we're not using this mechanism to shift. There, now all this added weight is taken off. We don't need it anymore. And we have just the pure rear set. I can go ahead and put that back on where it belongs. For the two bolts that hold the rear set in place, I'm going to use a little bit of Loctite on it, just blue. Just want to make sure I keep them in place and don't lose one of those going down the road. I know these things don't vibrate as much as the old Harleys and choppers, but old habits die hard. In the Harleys, you would use a lock washer, Loctite, and a lock nut half the time. And you'd basically get it about as tight as you could. On these, I tend to do what the manual says for torque. Now that those have been lightened and are back in place, I can move on to the shift lever swap. First thing I'm going to do before I start taking this apart is make sure that I understand how this goes together. And so if I hold it up over the old pivot point, it looks like this linkage goes into that first hole, and back here it looks like the peg would be in that rear one. These holes here, kind of equivalent to that would be if you move the linkage back here and do a reverse shift so that it's 1 up and 2 to 6 down instead of the normal way. So everything looks like it'll fit okay. I just need to swap them out. First I'll take this nut here and slip this guy off. There's a washer behind the nut. Gotta hang on to that. Now, you can see there's a bolt here that goes through that into the lever. So I need to take that bolt out and put it through the new one. All right, and there's our stock shift lever. Putting that down. That bolt is still right there. I'm just going to leave it right where it is. I'm going to put just a little bit of Loctite on the end of it. And again, if we lay them over top of each other with that center point spinning, we can see, I don't know if you can see it from there, but basically it lines up with that first hole. So I'm going to put it right where it is, same place. Now, what I didn't plan on is that piece now hits my plastics. So I'm going to have to actually trim this plastic a little bit more. I'm just using tape to kind of mark off how I want this to look. And I'll smooth it out, of course, but just giving myself sort of a general idea of how I want that thing to appear. And I just got to figure out how the best way to cut that'll be. I've got the Dremel tool out and ready to cut away that plastic where I need a little bit more clearance. The basic shape is cut out, now I just need to smooth it out. Now I need to hit it with some sandpaper. I'm going to start with 400 grit and just try to get that edge perfectly smooth as it's still a little bit rough. Now with the edge cut nice and clean and sanded smooth, if we put the shifter back in place, you can see you've got clearance here. We're not worried about interfering with the edge of the shift lever now. I also got the washer that goes behind the shift lever, so I need to go install that. Now we'll put the nut and washer back where it belongs. Make sure it swivels nice and easy and it's not binding anywhere. Good. Now that I have the correct shift peg from Attack Performance, I can install that. Again, going to use a little bit of blue Loctite on them. Using the 2 bolts with the washers, I'm now going to loosely put the shift peg in place. Again, we have the adjustment that we can use. And if we look at the stock one, it looks like even in the inmost position, it's still just a little bit out further than this. So I'm going to put it all the way in to get it as close as to what it was working with this one. Pretty close. We'll use that as a starting point. So this side is in the same position, but we have room to move out if we want. And this is pretty close to the same position as it was, but we can move that out as well. So now I actually have to just go ride it, see what it feels like, and go from there. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to learn more about how to enjoy amazing machines like this.